Hello, and welcome to Rapport with the Sailing. Um, this is my first podcast. Go ahead and tell me what you think of that name in the comments below. Not married to it, but I think it's fitting. I've been wanting to start this podcast for quite some time now, and I have my hands in so many different things. I've not had any solid direction on where to take it. I thought at first I would look at what kind of content I was consuming on social media, and I'm a musician, I'm a father, I'm a former carpenter, I am a hockey enthusiast, and as much as I love all those things, the thought of filming myself doing any of those things for somebody else's benefit didn't make much sense, because I've done that before and I didn't really have, I didn't really gain much from it. And I didn't think that anybody else could either. I do music for fun. I do hockey for fun. One of the most rewarding passions I have in my life is being a father. But when I even think of that, I don't know if I'm a professional at that or if I'm doing the greatest job. So I knew that I wanted to create this podcast and start speaking to people. But like I said earlier, I really didn't know what I should focus on or what I'm an expert at. So as soon as I got up this morning, I grabbed my phone, as I know I shouldn't do, and got right into Instagram, and it came to me via a Shia LaBeouf short on Instagram. And when I went to search it on YouTube, I found that the expansion of that small clip was what I was, the direction I'd like to take this podcast. And it was fitting because I am a follower of Christ. And it's exactly what he was talking about. The original clip focused on your purpose in life and how you find your purpose. But the expansion gave me an idea of the direction of where I'd like to take this podcast. And so just to let you all know, it came to me almost moments ago. I don't know how or if it's legal to take clips from YouTube and put it into this video podcast format. So what I did is I dictated what Shia had said, and I'd like to talk about that in this podcast. So here we go. I will link the clip in the description below so that you can watch it for yourself. No matter how you feel about Shia, I think that what he has to say in this clip applies to pretty much everybody. I've learned to not judge. I've learned to not judge people or their status in life from the exterior. I've known people who look extremely happy who are probably the most unhappy people. I've learned that people who look successful um, have found that in their place in life that they wish that they were somewhere else. Um, so, what I would like to talk about in this first podcast is is suffering, and that brings me to what I think I'm a professional at. Because in my life, as we will delve into in future podcasts, I've experienced my share of suffering and still continue to suffer. And like I said, when searching for a purpose for this podcast, I think that that's fitting, because I think a lot of us, in our own ways, for all different reasons, we're suffering in some shape or form. So let's go ahead and get into what Shia said. When I look at Christ on the cross, I think, is that a joyful man as he bleeds out and dies on the cross for humanity? Is that man joyful? And I think the answer is yes. That even in his suffering, that's what Christ represents to me. Meaningful suffering. That's pretty heavy in itself, because whether you believe that Christ was the Son of God or the Messiah, if this man really did experience what he did, and he experienced that for the reasons that he claimed to go through that experience for, that's pretty heavy. That he wanted to sacrifice himself, like what Shia says next. You know that the story of Christ is that God became man for our betterment. So that means that he is the ultimate example, the supreme priest, the ultimate redeemer. Whatever you believe, if that was his main goal, whether he saves your soul by dying on the cross or sacrificed himself as an example to live a better life for society, for community, for your brother, your sister, your neighbor, it's pretty impactful, where you don't need to die on the cross. You are given opportunity. There's no shortage of suffering to suffer for somebody else's benefit. And he goes on to say, when I look at Christ on the cross, I think that's very instructive. You don't see a lot of smiley-faced Christs on the cross. You don't see Christ on the cross dying and laughing with a plum in joy, in ultimate joy. But I think they should make some Christ on the cross in ultimate serenity, in ultimate joy. They always make Christ like this sad face, and I think that seems stupid. It seems like it's not deep enough. Like the artists who manufacture those crucifixes, it's almost like they're not seeing the full story. And the full story, I believe, is that Christ is in maximum joy in that moment. He is fully in his purpose, and that's, if you can tap into how you can use your suffering to help other people, that is maximum joy. At this stage in my life, I just recently turned 40. For many different reasons, I find myself stewing in my suffering, because I do believe in Christ, and that he is the Son of God, I find myself asking constantly why. Whether that's what you believe or not, that is up to you and that is your path. But I find myself asking constantly why. I'm not just suffering now. There have been a lot of things in my life that have caused suffering, prolonged suffering, things that I still don't understand and that I'm trying to figure out, whether that's prayer or therapy or the experience of being a father, trying to understand how and why I can make a difference in somebody else's life if my suffering had a purpose. And I think after listening to what Shia said, I'm not fully clear, but I'm reminded of why it is that I'm experiencing these things, and that it's a reminder that I should not be so selfish and constantly turning into myself and just looking at me, and trying to focus more on why and how my suffering can benefit somebody else through my experience, because it has value. I know that, but sometimes you're in so much pain that it's hard to put that aside or to put that cross down, and or allow that experience to set an example for somebody else who may be in an earlier stage of their life, or even maybe a later stage of their life. Just inspire them to not marinate in pain, but to understand that it may be the universe's way of tapping you on the shoulder and saying, hey, quit looking at your shoes, look to the sky. There is a reason why you're here. Which leads me to what he says next, which was the clip that I originally saw in bed this morning. I always thought that joy was all I did and then I'm happy, or I do this and then I'm happy, or I get her and then I'm happy, or I make that and then I'm happy, or they respect me and then I'm happy. I always thought that happiness was an acquired thing that I would gain from life, and that's why I was always grabbing. If I knew early on that happiness actually is in me, offering all of my suffering up for other people as an instructive thing or something that I could benefit, that could benefit man, then maybe I would have lived my life different. Which I've been reminded of multiple times, but because I'm in such a practice of chasing happiness, I forget that saying, like the person who enjoys running has a better life than the person who enjoys the destination, because you're always running. You're always walking somewhere. I found that no matter what I do, whenever I get there, I'm ultimately disappointed. It's one of the things that I speak most about in prayer and in therapy is I'm constantly disappointed no matter what I achieve. And the depression comes from the regret of not being more present and mindful along the way. because if you work for whatever it is that you want, you'll eventually get there. But if you don't pay attention, that's just time lost that you never get back. And I hope that this first episode reminds whoever's listening or watching that you should stop and assess what your goal is, what your purpose is, and how you can live in joy, which is the last thing he said in that clip. So I guess the question I would ask anybody is, how do you use your suffering to tap into your joy? Which is a crazy concept. How can you smile while you're in pain? I think that the only way is to offer that suffering up, as Christ did, to better somebody else's life. I think that that's ultimately what this life is about. No matter what, I think it's everybody's purpose. And if you're not living in that path, I know that at the end of all of this, you'll realize that your time was ill spent. And every life is a miracle, and every life has purpose. And I would hope that you love yourself enough to love others and create love and create joy, because suffering is inevitable. There's another questionable public figure that I saw in my scrolling that reminded you to enjoy the sunshine through the window as you sit in traffic, because it is inevitable that a dark day is coming, that this life has an expiration date. The people who you have in your life, who you love most, that is true with them as well. So to take a negative and develop, and live as joyfully as possible. So I'll say it again. So I guess the question I would ask anybody is, how do you use your suffering to tap into joy? And I hope that that is something that you can meditate on today. And I hope that it makes your day a little bit better. And I want to thank you for spending some time with me today and listening and watching. As I said before, I will link the Shia interview in the description below. I hope that you would like this video and subscribe to this podcast, because it's something that I would like to continue doing. And I would like to create a community of people who are feeling the same. And I would like to simultaneously change my mindset while inspiring you to change yours, because this life is beautiful. There are people who suffered for us. No matter what status you are in life, there was sacrifice made so that we could have a better life. And I'd like to remind myself of that. You should remind yourself of that. And with that being said, thank you so much. Have a great day.